Alrighty, I don't know why every time I go to film these videos, I get borderline a little bit of anxiety, which doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, I don't even have to send this off to our editor. But either way, welcome back to our channel. I decided, as per request from one of my clients actually, to do a sit-down Q&A video in which I think the last sit-down Q&A I was in was quite a few, I was going to say years. It was probably about a year ago, if not a little bit more than a year ago with Michael. But I thought I would do an individual one. One, because I enjoy watching these videos myself, but I also find from a client perspective, I know there's a couple of my clients who like watching my videos specifically. I don't mean that in like an obnoxious way whatsoever. They've genuinely told me that I should be on the YouTube channel more. But yeah, they're just fun and easy to film too. So I posted a question box on my Instagram story. We have a few questions, so we'll get straight into them. First one being, when did I start bodybuilding? This one's sort of, I'm not going to say hard timeline wise, but I think I was in my second semester of uni. At the time, I was studying a double degree in law and global politics. And I had dabbled in training because my first ever boyfriend, in fact, loved to train. And I just gone to the gym with him a few times. I was going to like group classes at my local gym with friends. And then I started going to uni, was quite invested in my health and fitness, probably not from a very like health biased perspective. It was more so just the fact that I wanted to get leaner. So I started training. I moved to a different gym that was closer to my uni. And then without even it being a very bodybuilder gym whatsoever, I reckon there was maybe like 3 people who had grasped the concept of like what Australian bodybuilding was, or like not even just the Australian scene, but just like proper bodybuilding in general. However, I remember subscribing to Meg Sylvester and Cuba Challenge on YouTube and like no real idea what bodybuilding was. Ever since I've subscribed to them, it just like went on from there. Like I was obsessed with their videos. I still am now. Like I watch pretty much every single video that they post, but I was just obsessed with it, became obsessed with training, not even the like whole concept of bodybuilding and like tracking all my biofeedback and all of that. It was more so just I love to train. I love training. I really connected to training in regards to like the psychological benefits from it. So seeing improvements in my self-esteem at a point in my life where it was probably at its lowest as well. So I just found it extremely beneficial. I loved having something that I could push myself on. I loved seeing the progressions that I was making each week. And then I actually remember one of my old friends telling me, oh, like don't waste your life being a personal trainer. Make sure you stick out with your degree. And I said to her, oh, but like one day, like I would love to have my own like PT business and be able to pursue bodybuilding on the side or like at the same time. Bearing in mind that I'd never even like watched a competition, I'd more so just followed these bodybuilders, like these figure competitors and open bodybuilders on YouTube. And then ever since then, it just continued to escalate. And then I obviously met Michael, went to a gym that just was still not bodybuilder-esque, but had great machines, loved the machines, loved learning more about training. And then it all just sort of spiraled from there. And now I'm here. I will say, however, when I refer to bodybuilding too, I don't necessarily mean just like competitive bodybuilding. I feel like a lot of people, hobby builders, or even individuals who haven't even recognized that they hobby build, would still love just the bodybuilding lifestyle, like the constant pursuit for better and becoming better. And again, like the psychological benefits of doing so without even having to step on stage. And when I look at my lifestyle and sort of how I live now, if the stage were to be removed, like if I could never step on stage, I would still train the same. I would eat the same. I would still be going through these like evolutionary phases to become better. So yeah, that's how my bodybuilding sort of started. There was really no major influence, like no major individual who I knew. I didn't know a single person. None of my friends really even trained. It was more so just, it all started from subscribing to a couple people on YouTube, and I was like, fuck, like this is cool. And then I just got into it from there. What camera setup do you use for videos and content? I actually had to go and check the camera in which I'm using now in regards to what lens it has on it. A lot of our content that we post on Instagram or YouTube or whatnot is either professionally filmed. I have no idea what both Sean and Julian use in regards to filming our content. What we use individually, the camera that I'm filming on now is an EOS M50 Mark II with a Canon 50mm lens. I don't know whether or not that even makes sense because I've got no idea about cameras and camera setups, but we purchased the camera in which we're currently filming this video on now, and then like got the mics just for normal filming and whatnot. And then I wanted something for my new gym that allows filming that was just much better quality in regards to a lens. So I got like a little adapter, I don't even know what they're called, and the new lens. The main camera that we use for a lot of our reels is actually James's camera, which again, I have no idea what it is, but it's worth that and the lens combined are probably worth more than my car. So we try not to use it too much in like gym settings where it's on a tripod because it's so heavy that if it gets knocked over, then James will probably kill me. But either way, that's what we use for our setups. Alrighties, what's my favorite meal of all time? Tash actually asked this, and if it was anybody but Tash, I would assume they were referring to like my day-to-day meals, but I think she might be referring to just like food in general, which if I'm completely honest, I have no idea. I have another question about off-plan meals. So I would say, I don't even know what my favorite meal of all time is. Anything. Like I feel like Michael and I would consider ourselves to be massive foodies. Like we love food. Even James, even Alana. Like everybody around us loves food. And I think this is so off topic, but something that comes up so frequently in the coaching process is people not acknowledging or understanding that we all love food. Like everybody loves food. It's weird if you don't love food. Like I would consider Michael and I to be like massive foodies, like to the point where we have like lists of places that we've been to and like ratings and everything like that. But it's just what we sort of value more and recognize that you lose the novelty of enjoying food if you're over consuming it and it's getting in the way of bigger goals and bigger outcomes. But favorite meal of all time? Shit, I don't know. I will say I love American barbecue. Fancy Hanks in Melbourne is good, but that might just be because it's on like the tip of my tongue. I'm not a massive fan of Japanese food purely just because I like texture and I find it's all too similar from a texture perspective. If we're referring to my like meals that I eat every single day, cream of rice, but made like oats. So instead of cream of rice, as in like you buy rice flour or you're using a bag of cream of rice from like a supplement store, you just use rice in replacement of oats. That would be my favorite meal that I eat like on the day-to-day with whey, blueberries, dark chocolate, honey, or just like a macro-friendly bolognese, which I think last year I probably ate for like the whole entire year straight, if not more. Now I just don't have the calories to eat it. But if I did, I would be eating it. In regards to my off-plan meals and my go-to off-plan meals, this too is hard because I feel like I don't have anything specific that I go to. If you asked me a year ago, it probably would have been something wild. I'm not massive on like pizzas and burgers and stuff like that. I also find for myself individually, I am in a better position like psychologically if I eat something that I know is not obviously on my meal plan. I'm going out and eating an off-plan meal, but it's something that digests well. So for me, that means limited dairy and no gluten, because I know the next day I'm just going to have a significantly more enjoyable time, like getting straight back into everything. everything. I don't know about anybody else, anybody who's had any previous issues in regards to food and like your psychology and mindset around food. But I personally find that like a big dirty meal of just foods that I know don't digest well, I'll eat like half of it and be like, fuck. Like, not that I feel guilty in any way, but I just know that it's not actually satisfying me that much because I know the repercussions of the next day are going to make me feel worse. I'm a lot more satisfied if we go out and get a steak with like fries and like veg on the side, something that digests well, something that I wake up the next day and go, sweet, body feels good, digestion feels good, I'm in a really good place. Like that I find now significantly more satisfying, and I am significantly more content having a meal like that as opposed to something that is like crazy that leaves me feeling sick and nauseous, because that used to be what I would say perceive as like, oh, like I have to eat something that's freaking wild for it to like satisfy me. But it's not the case anymore whatsoever. I'm satisfied with something that more so just allows me to enjoy time with people, whether it be Michael, whether it be family, whoever it is. Again, enjoy like the novelty sort of the off-plan meal, but know the next day that I'm going to feel really good. That I find significantly more satisfying. And I feel like I just enjoy the meals better. I don't get halfway through and feel sick and not even end up finishing it. I'm pretty sure the last time I got a burger anyways, the last probably 3 times I've got a burger, I've probably eaten half of it and not even half and just like left it on the bench. And then either Michael's eaten it or it's gone in the bin just because I feel like physically it doesn't sit well with me anymore. Don't get me wrong. I love a burger and I can guarantee you I'm probably going to eat a jillion more in the rest of my lifetime. But as a weekly inclusion, I prefer something that digests well, because it makes me feel good and it obviously supports long-term goals and outcomes significantly more. Alrighty, next question. How do you deal with weight fluctuations and not seeing progress? This is a good one to get into. Tying into what I just said in regards to like feeling good the next day. Again, if say I were to have an event, for example, I have James and Alana. So James, who obviously is a part of the team, everybody who's watching this, I assume would know who James is, and his partner Alana are getting married this weekend. By the time this goes out, they'll probably already be married. But an event like that, whereby in the hierarchy of events, it's going to sit a little bit higher, whereby if it's just like a week to week off-plan meal that sort of ranks a little bit lower in regards to importance, like on your hierarchy, I would again stick to something that's cleaner, digests well, etc. Although I still take those principles and intentions into say something like a wedding, when it's sitting a little bit higher on my hierarchy, if there's like wedding cake or dessert at the wedding, like I'm going to eat it. The following days, however, and again, this is something that if I had to pick a downfall for myself, would be the emotion that I tie to then things like body weight or seeing my body fluctuate, and then that impacting, say, like my weekly progressions. Because I'm currently in a deficit too, inevitably, you're a little bit more hyper fixated on what your body weight is doing. When you're in a deficit, you're sort of chasing the scale weight to go down and go down and go down and go down. Something that I found extremely beneficial for myself is reminding myself, and I say this to all of my clients, the next day, remind yourself if, say, you did overeat or something didn't digest well, or you're just not feeling fantastic, reminding yourself that like your body will bounce back. Delaying you jumping straight back into like your normal routines, your normal meals, your normal habits when it comes to hydration and walking and sleep is just delaying progress. No matter how much damage you perceive to have done at said event or whatever you consumed at that off-plan meal, you're just delaying your progress by then sort of like not jumping straight back into everything. Like it's like the car tire analogy. If you run over something and you pop a tire, you don't get out of the car and then slash the rest of the tires. The same principle applies to that. How I deal with weight fluctuations is a little bit different to how I used to deal with them, purely because I track my photos, because my progress photos are so consistent, always in the same lighting, as well as I trust myself that sometimes the weight fluctuations do not reflect what my body composition is looking like whatsoever. I've had instances whereby my body weight's hardly moved, but I've been absolutely flawless, like 10 out of 10. And then occasionally I'll have a week whereby, again, like I'll have a big event and my body weight still goes down like a kilo, when in fact, from an application perspective, it's not as accurate as, say, previous weeks. Obviously, as females too, we have to acknowledge that there's going to be a period whereby our menstrual cycle is going to heavily influence our body weight during this time. I find even during ovulation, I get a little bit of like a sticky body weight. But again, progress photo wise, I find really important. And again, the trust in my training, knowing that it's not just body fat loss that can be happening. Like if my photos are improving week on week, if I'm doing everything that I can, if I can lay in bed at night and say, sweet, I've ticked off hydration, meals 10 out of 10, sleep's fantastic at the moment, steps, didn't miss a step, then like I have nothing to worry about. If my body weight's not moving, that's not necessarily a me issue to worry about. Again, we have coaches, or I have a coach to give him the stress and worry. If things aren't working, he can adjust the process because I know that I'm going to execute everything and I'm not going to miss steps, and I know that I'm going to hit my targets, whatever they may look like. So in regards to altogether, to sort of sum things up, one, not focusing on it too significantly, putting more pressure, I would say, or just more focus into your actual progress photos and how you're progressing elsewhere. Again, as females, understanding that you're not going to have that same predictability and consistent rate of loss as, say, a male would, especially if you have a partner who too is getting coached or like navigating their health and fitness in a similar sort of phase that you are. It's not going to be as predictable and consistent and easy for them as it is going to be for you. And just being able to step on the scale, sort of throw the weight over my shoulder and get on with my day, acknowledging that, again, if I let my emotion get in the way of application, if I see that scale weight, it's spiked up, and then I go, fuck it, I'm not going to do anything today. I'm not going to hit my steps. I'm going to eat whatever I want. Like, it's just delaying progress. It's not helping anything. It's not helping anything whatsoever. But yeah, that's how I deal with weight fluctuations, coming from somebody who previously and still does look at the scale weight sometimes and think, fuck, like it still hasn't moved. But I just never ever let it influence application. And again, knowing that, okay, when I lay in bed each night, I know that I've done everything that I can. If there's anything to worry about from a progressive standpoint, that's not my issue to worry about. I'm literally paying somebody to worry about that. I hope that was helpful. Not seeing progress, I would say, is a different thing. Weight, different to obviously progress. Progress, I think people just tie the progress that they make to the scale weight. Psychological progress that you make and integrating habits into your life is one of literally the most underrated things ever. I would be so much more focused on a client who is able to integrate habits within their lifestyle. Body weight really hasn't moved, but they, day after day, are showing up for themselves. They're super consistent. They've adjusted their entire lifestyle to sort of fit everything in, and they've adapted these habits just like brushing your teeth, as opposed to an individual who, say, within like 20 weeks lost 10, 12 kilos, but then it's like their whole entire life flips on its head in order for them to do so. And then if they stop, they lose everything. So habit development, how you psychologically perceive yourself, I would say your ability to adopt like a radical responsibility mindset too, that is like the best form of progress you could ever have, alongside obviously training, all of that. But again, it's not your issue. As long as you're doing everything that you need to be doing, it's not your issue. Do I coach full time, and how does it working for Michael? So my job role in our team is, I would say, slightly different to the rest of the team. Obviously, Michael is like our boss technically, with Michael and then myself, James and Jude then working underneath Michael. The boys, so James and Jude, both coaching full time alongside some minor admin duties. And then myself, I still coach decent cohort of individuals. However, my job role is split sort of 50-50 in regards to coaching and admin. So I have dedicated days whereby it is primarily focused around client updates. Still, obviously, just like any other coaching process, they can message me literally whenever they want. It's just that I have specific days throughout the weeks whereby, say, for example, my Wednesday is just like a complete admin day. I'll still obviously do client work like setups or adjust training programs or do training revisions, etc. I just don't do any check-ins on a Wednesday. I also have like in regards to a client cap. So it's like one client in, one client say out, one client in. If I have one client, for example, recently who stopped because she got pregnant, and then I had an old client who recontacted me and they just sort of like swapped positions, if that makes sense. So everybody coaches, we all coach pretty much. However, I also do all of our social media, all of our content, manage emails, and all like the admin side of everything too. Michael obviously does a significant amount of admin because it's his business, but yeah, I coach and do admin. Favorite podcasts for walking? Oh, so my favorite podcast, I actually have a list of them. I would say my current favorite podcast is the Theo Von podcast, which I won't stop talking about to people because I find him so hilarious. I would say as well, although I love self-development podcasts, I sometimes find them, one, boring, depending on who they are, and sometimes just like not that actual helpful. So from a self-development perspective, I would say I'm more a fan of listening to actual like self-development books, but just listening to the audio books. So I know I've got like The Mountain Is You, I've got Discipline, I have it on the bookshelf too. Discipline is Destiny I have on my phone as well as an audiobook, and I think I prefer listening to those like actual texts as opposed to a 60-minute episode about a specific topic, and then more so listening to the actual podcasts for entertainment. But outside of that, the Flex Success podcast from like a fitness and health perspective is fantastic. Say More podcast, which is Phoebe Hagen and Laura Lee Chapados' podcast, which again is a little bit more like entertainment, especially if you're somebody who competes. The Women's Series with Holly Sinclair is great again for like education perspective things. I got Feelings Good, J3 University. I've got Physique Collective do podcasts as well. And then outside of that, Mystery Mondays, I'm sure everybody knows who Bella Fiore is. She just started uploading her podcasts to her videos to Spotify. So I've been listening to those. And then randomly, like I've got a couple politics ones that are just interesting too, but currently obsessed with all of Theo Von's podcasts. I think he's so funny. Outside of that, what's in my gym bag? So I have currently, it's right behind the camera. Michael recently purchased me a mini wolf pack. I've previously had like wolf pack knockoff bags, but just quality wise have been nowhere near as good as the actual Wolfpack bag itself. I've also got a Malami meal prep bag, but I would say still I much prefer to gravitate towards using the Wolfpack. In my bag, I always have a pair of spare heels for posing. I have a few pairs of heels and I keep a spare pair of heels in my bag. I have a book. I currently have like some Arnold book in my bag, which occasionally, very occasionally I'll read when I'm on the treadmill. However, I just keep it in there because my bag goes everywhere with me. So if I'm driving somewhere and I want to read a book, which I don't even really like reading that much, but if I want to read, I'll read that. I have a couple pairs of straps just in case I either lose one or I'll usually be training the same time as James or Michael or somebody who will need straps as well. I have a pair of cuffs, which are incredibly helpful. If you don't have straps, that's like the biggest no-no. Cuffs, which I wouldn't say are a massive necessity because most gyms will have a pair of cuffs or a few pairs of cuffs, but I just like having my own, knowing that they're with me. I have a pair of knee sleeves in their bag, which reminds me that I need to wash my knee sleeves. I have a towel. I always take water with me as well. I don't think I have anything other than that. And then just like some little like feminine female things. I'm pretty sure a spare jumper and like spare undies and socks in my bag, but that's about it. When we travel, however, our bags are packed, like hectically packed. And last question is whether or not the editor actually includes this, whether or not I ask Michael whether or not I'm allowed to include this, whether or not I am natural. And no, I'm not natural. Obviously, we won't go into much in regards to that just because I feel like people perceive it as something, obviously in the Australian like bodybuilding scene, it's something that's so taboo. So no, I am not, just for reference. But aside from that, I'm pretty positive that was all I have written down. It is. Either way, thanks for listening. I hope you found this borderline, or hopefully you found it slightly interesting. Any questions that you have, please send them to us. We'll probably end up doing like a group Q&A at some point in time as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed and we'll see you soon.